Hey all, Michelle Raza with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're going to continue talking about Dr. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. We've been on chapter 9, I believe it is, Updating Your Self-Concept, and today we're going to continue discussing, I have to flip back, how you protect your adult self-concept. So if you like this content and it's valuable to you, please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers. And check out my website. I'm at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can take my free life balance questionnaire and submit it to me. You can also just submit a contact form and I'll be in touch. Your first consult is always free and there's no obligation thereafter. Thank you. Okay, so last time we ended with an exercise reviewing your childhood self-concept. And today we're going to continue with making sure you protect your adult self-concept. And then we will end with an exercise. So I did mention we're going to spend a little bit of time on this chapter because it is so exercise heavy. And so I don't want to do multiple exercises in one video. So it's not that long of a chapter, it's just that we're going to take our time with it. So if you're following along, we are on page 159. Make sure you protect your adult self-concept. As we've seen, EI parents see qualities in their children that serve the parents' needs. Or rather, they nurture those qualities that serve the parents' needs. So not necessarily the qualities that are best for the child, but the qualities that are best for the parent. Therefore, you may have been told things about yourself in childhood that simply weren't true. But now, as an adult, you can consciously build a more accurate and supportive self-concept. This is especially important because as an adult, how you see yourself affects every part of your life. Have you allowed yourself to grow into a self-affirming adulthood? If you don't see yourself as worthy, you won't take charge when you need to. If you don't find yourself interesting, how will you promote yourself or have close, rewarding relationships with others? If you aren't self-protective, how can you feel safe with anyone? Now, let's look at how to correct some adult distortions in self-concept that are caused by EI parents. Realize you are now an adult with authority. So I'm going to take a minute here and kind of expand. Dr. Gibson talks a lot about the role self and how we play roles as children of EIPs. We fall into the role that the EIP places us into. And so sometimes that can be a very limiting role, and it's really not aligned with your true self. So here, as we're trying to remember, we are adults with authority. You need to look at the roles that have maybe limited you and also expand on the roles that you now need to fulfill as an adult. You are no longer just the child of the EIP. You yourself are an adult with authority. So what is the role that you play? If you're someone's boss, have you filled those shoes as a boss, as a mentor? If you're an employee, that may be an easier role to fill as a child of an EIP because you're doing as you're told and you're generally pretty good at it. But it's when you have to take assertiveness that you might not be comfortable filling the role that you now have to fulfill. So take some time to think about that. I think we will expand on it in the journal exercise as well. No, you are not an imposter. The imposter syndrome makes it hard to fully own your accomplishment because it doesn't feel like it came from you. You secretly fear being exposed as a fraud, like a child playing dress-up. Yet the real problem may be that you haven't consciously updated your self-concept beyond who you were in childhood. You might feel like an imposter in relationships as well, finding it hard to understand why others love you or how others could love you. Many adult children are protective of their family members' narcissism and feel uncomfortable challenging their entitlement to center stage, so the EIP's entitlement to center stage. Such adult children will downplay their success as soon as the spotlight hits them. So they can't really feel proud of themselves. They feel guilty to be celebrating any of their own successes, and it's very hard for them to celebrate their own success. As an example of such entitlement, so the EIP is entitlement. Consider the father who attended his daughter's award ceremony, but sat there and steamed about how there were too many people, how it was taking all night, and how he was missing the ball game on TV. Then there was the mother who kept huffing about how unbelievably inconsiderate it was for the college to hold her son's graduation on Mother's Day weekend. These parents communicated that their comfort was much more important than their child's success. Just because EIPs don't support your moments of success, it doesn't mean you have to discount your adult accomplishments. In fact, with parents like this, you need to be even more self-supportive. Don't be distracted when they try to hijack all the attention. Cherish every bit of your success and incorporate it into your self-concept. Now, I will say this is typically easier if you develop a support group of people that can help lift each other up. So if you have a group of friends where you celebrate their success and they celebrate your success, that can help fill the gap where typically you've had the EIPs not able to celebrate anything besides the things that they're interested in. And sometimes they're very good at celebrating your success, as long as they can use that as a way to brag about you. But ultimately, you are the only one who can determine whether the EIP is celebrating you right or not. And you're the only one who can determine what that level should be. Like, you need to be proud of yourself so that others can be proud of you, and so that you can say, yes, they're celebrating me right, or they're making too big of a deal, or they're not making enough of a big deal. But if you come from a family of EIPs and you know that they're not going to be able to celebrate your success, they're too selfish to be able to celebrate anything beyond themselves, then find yourself a support group that can help celebrate you. It's very easy for Dr. Gibson to say, celebrate yourself, or for me to say here, you need to be proud of yourself, but sometimes that's really, really hard. And so if you have other people that can help you celebrate your success and you can help celebrate theirs, then that may be a way to kind of overcome this. Protect your adult self from your parents' distortions. So this here is an example that is a little bit extreme, but essentially, let me read it and then I'll comment on it. EI parents look at their children through their own projections. As a result, they can give their children a warped image of who they are. Sometimes this distortion is nearly unbelievable. For instance, Lily had struggled her entire adolescence from anorexia, abetted by her mother's pathological obsession about food and weight. Even when Lily was dangerously thin, her mother kept commenting on anything that could be a fattening food choice. Even after Lily had healed her self-image and regained a normal, healthy weight as an adult, visits home to her mother could reactivate her anorexic thinking. Her mother continued to make veiled comments about Lily's thighs or other weight-related issues. After being around her mother's preoccupation about weight, Lily found herself obsessing again about diet and exercise. Lily ultimately decided that her continued adult health depended on not seeing her mother very often. So here basically the answer for Lily was not to see her mom. you're the only one who can determine what the right cadence is for the EIPs in your life. You could cut them out entirely. You could mitigate your interactions with them using the concepts that Dr. Gibson has taught us. So I'm looking back at the chapter. I believe it was chapter 6, where EI parents are hostile towards your inner world and how to defend your right to your innermost experiences. I think we spent quite a bit of time on these, talking about the steps. So here we have, I believe it was 1 through 10. Yeah. So claim your right to ignore them, suggest other ways to connect, use questions to block their disrespect, deflect instead of reacting, rolling past their envious put-downs, defending your right to be sensitive, claiming your right to think things through, defending your right to be upset, defending the legitimacy of your problems, and validating your right to feel the way you do. So you can completely cut them out of your life. You can use these methods to work through dealing with them. But you need to constantly take some time to say, how do I feel about this? Not just blindly accepting how they've made you feel year over year over year, but what is the level of interaction with them that you can tolerate and that you find healthy? If an EIP is causing you to have a health issue like anorexia, the right answer may be to not see them very often. You may want to engage in such a way that you can see them, but that they don't affect you. Also, and I don't think Gibson really covers this so much, but if you haven't tried to actually reconcile and see where they are, periodically you may want to try and have a meaningful encounter with them. That's where I would go back to Dr. Gottman's works that teach us emotional intelligence. And I would take those steps and see basically how they react to that. And if they don't react well, which typically an EIP will not react well, then you go back to the mitigation strategies that Dr. Gibson teaches us in chapter 6. So enough about that. Let's go through updating your self-concept. How to update your self-concept. An accurate self-concept allows you to appreciate your complexity and what you bring to the world as a unique person. To update your self-concept, start with the following. 1. Establish your worth. 2. Identify your values and life philosophy. 3. Fill in the blanks in your self-concept. 4. Define your own self-characteristics. And 5. Find role models and mentors. So this is just a top-level overview of what we're going to cover step by step, I believe in the next 5 videos. It really just depends on her exercises. So number 1, establish your worth. The quality of your relationship with yourself and others depends on how much you esteem yourself and your value. So let's do an exercise. We're going to close out today's video with an exercise. Grab your journal. And as I've said multiple times, so you may not be able to do this exercise today when you're watching the video. You can pause this, you can come back to it. When you're ready, take some time, do this exercise, and then come back to it as many times as you need to in order to actually properly do it. I know personally, this is very hard stuff, and I can't just sit there and, depending on my mood and what my to-do list looks like and what's going on for the day, I can't go through these exercises. I need to get myself in the right headspace. So if that's what you need in order to get there, take that time and do it. Exercise. How do you feel about yourself? To find out how you feel about yourself, first, sit quietly and try to enter into your deepest feelings. Answer these questions in your journal with the first thing that pops into your mind. Try to respond from your heart, not your intellect. And remember, nobody's going to read this but you. It's just for you. It's your journal exercise. You can burn it, you can freeze it, you can tear it up. Nobody has to see it after you're done. Am I good? Am I capable? Am I enough? Am I important? Am I lovable? Now consider your responses. If you had EI parents, you might have answered one or more of these questions with a no. If so, that's because doubts about self-worth are common results of receiving EI parents' shame and guilt in childhood. The good news is that you can plan to update your self-concept and beliefs about what makes people worthy. Okay, look, I'll show you my handy dandy pen. Also available on the Zazzle store. I think I actually got this one from Vistaprint, but so hard stuff here. Really, this is not easy. Yeah. So thanks for spending time with me. As I've mentioned in previous videos, if you have health insurance, I highly recommend a therapist to help you work through this stuff. It's worthwhile. It's scary, right? To dive backwards into your life and say, how did I get here? But it's really, really important work. And a life coach can help you talk through some of these issues, but we're of course not trained in the same way a therapist is. So if you have the coverage, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend talking to a therapist. And once you're ready to set your life goals and get marching toward them, give me a call. Go to www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Fill out the life balance questionnaire if you'd like. You don't have to. Or fill out a contact form, and we'll be in touch. Your first consult is always free, and there's no obligation thereafter. Thanks, y'all. Look forward to chatting more on Thursday. Take care.